Welcome everyone to another episode of Traders Talk Podcast, the best Forex podcast where we sit down with some of the best traders, funded traders, non-funded traders, so we can, learn from their success, their struggle, and use that as fuel to light our own fire. Today, man, I have Steve. I'm gonna see if I can share his Instagram page there. So Steve, I've been following Steve for a little bit now. His trading journey, I've really seen him level up, and he's been a pretty big inspiration in my trading as well over the last two and a half years. I'm sure some of you guys probably know who he is if you're alive on Instagram and you follow some of the Forex people. But I've really looked up to Steve for the last 2 years. And yeah, he's got some really motivational stuff and some stuff that I want to ask him. There's definitely stuff that Steve can teach us, and we want to ask him these questions today. So first of all, welcome to the podcast, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm great. Thank you very much. Just really looking forward to doing this.
All right, cool. So an interesting thing about Steve, and what I will do at the end of the podcast, and what you guys can find in the description of the video, will be links to Steve's Instagram page, his academy, but mainly his podcast, which I encourage every one of you guys to please check that out, man. His first podcast I listened to about a year ago, extremely motivational. But the one that I listened to, his second one, which I think you just released not too long ago, wow, man, he took some of the words right out of my mouth, and we're gonna be talking about that today. Amazing. Like please go check out that his podcast first, and then So the first question I like to typically ask Steve is and this is something you talk about in your first podcast. So if people get a chance to listen, you'll understand. But what was life like before trading? Like, what were you up to in life before trading even came into the picture?
So I'm a lawyer, so fully legal trained, and I've been doing that now since I was the age of 17. And so that's basically what my life has been like, is just doing law and going down that path of having a real career. So but whilst doing that, I've always been interested in trading. So it was something that I wanted to get involved with and do on the side as a hobby, to try and understand, obviously the Forex markets, the crypto markets. And that's kind of what's led me to where I am today, is doing that on the side of sort of full-time work, being a lawyer as well.
Okay. So are you still working in your other career as well?
Yeah, so I still have a law firm. So it's a law firm that I've got in England. We've got 2 offices. And the reason that I still do law is because I honestly think that it's quite important for trading, well, for my psychology anyway, to be doing that as well as something else, because I like to try and spend as minimal times on the charts as possible. And I know if I'm not doing something else, whether it be going to the gym or just doing anything, I'll just sit on the charts. And we all know that it's no good just sitting on the charts all day, because you'll start to see setups that aren't necessarily there. So I do both.
Yeah, and I agree with that. For me, transitioning this year from working a full 9 to 5 to trading full time, the first 2 months I was like, okay, what do I do? Do I just sit here and trade all day? And then I realized that's not going to work out. That's not what I'm. And then I had this whole big void of time, and now I trade less. I don't trade Mondays. I don't trade Tuesdays. I strictly like to trade Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I only want to see when my alert goes off is the only. And so I have a bunch of free time. So I'm doing other things. I have another business going, with my brother and things like that. So I think it's really important, especially for the people that are transitioning into full-time trading. I don't think you can just sit there and just trade all. That's not going to work out. And that's something you talk about. Some of the stuff you talk about later in your podcast. So again, if people listen to your first podcast, they'll hear that whole story. Very inspiring. You went on that trip with your mom to Las Vegas. That was really cool. And then, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you started to actually first trade crypto before you moved to Forex?
Absolutely. So I traded crypto and started, this is my whole journey, was at the height of the bull run in crypto. And I had some good success, to be honest, because everything was just going up. So I would just buy and it would go through the roof, which was fantastic. But then from that, I understood that there was something called technical analysis, which again, I had no clue about. I didn't know what a pip was. I didn't know what a candlestick was. I didn't know what a trend line was. And so from there, I decided to obviously get the knowledge, first of all, with crypto. And then I realized that technical analysis at the time was respecting Forex, and Forex was a little bit safer. So then I transferred sort of the skill from that I learned from crypto into the Forex markets. And obviously I'm still doing that today.
Yeah, that's how I started as well. I started trading crypto, but I just lost a bunch of money because at that time it was just going sideways. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let me see if I can try learning something else. And I was lucky in a sense where, the first course that I bought, and so we're going to just talk a little bit about education because a lot of people, new people that are watching this podcast, or, they're obviously looking into YouTube to find a Forex podcast. They may not be, profitable at this point. So they're looking for a place to go to, learn the right way of education. So I was lucky in a sense where, the first course I paid for was about $1,000, and I can't, it didn't make me profitable, or it didn't even have a strategy, but it laid down the foundations of, trends and market structure and candlesticks. And then I bought another course, which was like 500, whatever. And I bought a bunch of courses, and each course like taught me something new. You know what I mean? It didn't make me profitable, but it just layered things on. But during that process, and this is something you talk about in your second podcast, for people that are looking into education, and I see we're going to talk about your academy as well later on. If it's $400 or $500, and you see the person's progress on Instagram, which we can see yours, obviously, join that person's program, see if you can learn something from them. And worst case scenario, you spend $500, but you still learned. Like I did, I kept learning, and then I moved on to the next course. Then I finally learned, something that fit with my personality. But like you said in your podcast, it's probably not a good idea to go and spend $15,000 to $20,000. There's no Forex education out there that can. It doesn't make sense in my mind. But let me tell you a little story about that. Is I know who the company that you're talking about and you joined. It's because when I was going through, I was not profitable and I was really struggling. See, the lifestyle marketing, it really it works. Okay. So I also almost joined that company. So do you want to just talk about that part, like why it doesn't make sense to ever spend $15,000 on education? It's so stupid. Like, why would
Yeah.
you do that?
So, I mean, listening to my podcast, everyone will hear I spent £15,000 on education with this company. And don't get me wrong, I learned a lot in terms of, as you were saying, the basics. I learned, again, how to read a chart, where to read a chart, just how to understand what a chart is. But then that didn't make me profitable. And I don't think there is any education out there that you would pay that money for, because really, to be successful in Forex, you just need to understand what price is doing. You just need to have your strategies. And as long as you're willing to just work on the charts, read certain pairs and back test and forward test and understand, where entries can be, then you can get that just by putting your own sort of work in. So for me, the way that I became successful was that I had the basics. I did get taught a lot of things which I don't think work, but then again, that's also helped me progress, because then I know now I know not to look at certain indicators. I know
Right.
that I'm not going to use this to trade because I don't think it's reliable, so I can get rid of that and concentrate on what's really important. And then so all I did was from there was, again, I read a lot of books and looked at the charts for years and years to try and understand price action, and then just eventually found something that worked well for me and the
Yeah.
times that I was trading as well. And so I don't think you need to be spending thousands and thousands of pounds to get assistance in trading, because you can find that as long as you're willing to put the work in over a number of years. And I think that's what it takes, and that's why so many people quit and think there is something that's going to get you profitable instantly. But it's just about having that right knowledge and then applying that and sticking with that and disciplined to allow your edge to play out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That's something I actually talk about on one of my last YouTube videos. Is I don't know. That came from my experience. Buying all these courses. Thankfully, I did not, and I'll talk about that in a second. I think it's just I think everybody has their timeline of how long it's going to take them. That's what I talked about in the last video. Majority of the people quit before they hit that timeline because they financially burn themselves out, or they emotionally burn themselves out by either spending too much money or like burning through too much money. So I think for me it was just continue going, trying until I finally found something that fit with me. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't make that mistake, because I remember applying, and then it's the we'll give you a call, and then so I got a call. I did get a call from, and the first one was another. I think he's a good mentor. I think I'm not going to name any names, but then I got a call from this girl, and they're like, it was $12,000. And I said, okay, that's a lot of money. But they're like, we'll give you a $50,000 funded account. So I was like, okay, whoa, cool. And I was very close. I was like just putting together the money, and I was like, okay, so will you give me the account after 6 months? Once you teach me everything. She was like, no, we're gonna give it to you right away. So then that's when I was like, okay, wow, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they give me a big account with real money in it if I can't even trade yet? So
Yeah. That was my biggest mistake. Right. So having that account, that messed me up because I was
right.
going from trading. I think, maybe I think the max I put in the account was £1,000, and I lost that. And then I was doing a few £100 and I lost that as well. And then the next day, going from putting on 0.01 lots, obviously really, really small lots, to getting a £50,000 account, my
It's just gonna
psychology was crazy
throw.
because I wasn't winning straight away because I didn't have any winning strategies. I didn't understand what to do.
Yeah.
So all that was happening was I was seeing losses of £1,000, £2,000, £3,000 a day, and
Mess
then
you up.
it's difficult to get back from that. So what I speak about on the podcast is it's quite good to start small and work your way up. And I really believe that that's what helped me, was then getting rid of that, starting again, and then just building it up slowly. And then once you do understand, obviously, how to trade, I think it doesn't take too long from there to then start to being consistent and see those good results.
Right, 100% agree. So do you actually have a timeline for you, Steve? Like how long was it in the timeline that it took you? Do you think you started to hit some kind of consistency?
So I would say I didn't know what I was doing in terms of trading just based on the education that I'd already had online, probably 3.5 years. And then after that, it took I did back testing for about 8-9 months and forward
Okay.
testing just to get things, to work the way that I wanted them to work on the charts. And then once I understood what I was doing, probably 6 or 7 months from understanding it got me to where I am now in consistency. So as soon as
So
I
that's
understood
years.
it was like, great, here we go.
Yeah. So again, that's like well over 4 years, then almost, right? That's a lot of time. A lot of people will not stick around for that long. And by that time, I've had friends and other people, family and things. They'll either burn themselves out financially or emotionally, and then they're like, okay, this doesn't work. But yeah, can you imagine somebody coming straight in with a $15,000 hit and then trying to relearn everything?
Yeah.
That would mess somebody up a lot. So the other thing you just talked about, which I say a lot, is yeah, start with $100 account, treat it like $100,000 account, because again, something you said about that account, and I don't know, you probably get these DMs. I get them all the time, and sometimes in my Discord or messages. People think like once I get that 100K funded account, money's just gonna start coming in, or I'm just gonna start becoming, I don't know, somehow winning money. I don't know. It's a really weird thought process that's happening with a lot of new traders. It's like, let me get this 100K account, and then somehow I'm gonna become profitable. It's like the other way around. Trading funded accounts is definitely not easy. Once you get it, it's hard to keep it. I'm not ashamed to say I've blown multiple funded accounts this year. I've also made tons of money this year on funded accounts. But I think what you said in your podcast, and that's why I encourage everybody to listen to Steve's podcast, especially the second one. Try to have that small account, manage that small account, manage your emotions, and then you talk about journaling a lot, and I think you're putting a lot of emphasis on it. For me, this year, I do a lot of like journaling in terms of like, how do I feel, what are my thoughts before a session, things like that. But what are your thoughts for like new traders? Like, how should they go about the journaling process? You kind of explained it in your podcast.
Yeah. So I don't do as much journaling now as I used to. But
Yeah.
again, it's more around emotions, or let's say we all have bad habits. So let's say I've revenge
Yeah.
traded for some reason. I'll journal that and try and understand, because I think even when you get to a level where you're consistent, you still need to keep on top of yourself and your emotions to stay consistent. So, well, what I say to all new traders, I think it's extremely important to journal, whether you do that on notes on a MacBook, whether you actually physically write them down, whether you record your trades on Zoom or any other platform. I think it's really important to, first of all, when you're going to go into a trade, take a screenshot, explain why you're taking that trade, and what are your confluences, how are you feeling, are you angry if you had a good day, what's going on in your life, are you in a good position to be able to read the charts properly. Then take a screenshot after the trade, whether you've won, whether you've lost, whether you've come back out of that trade break even. And again, write down what you see now. Is there something that's happened with price action now? So let's say, for an example, do you keep getting stopped out and then price will go in your direction? So you can go back and look over your trades that you've taken maybe on the weekend. And if you're seeing throughout the week, you've taken 3 or 4 trades and prices all, wicked you out. And this has happened to everybody, right? Still happens to you now. If it wicks you out and then goes in your direction, why? Is it because maybe you're not being patient enough? Maybe you're entering too early. Therefore, it might be worth a while, maybe the next week, being a little bit more patient, waiting for price to come a little bit higher rather than being eager and jumping in. And then you can start to fix those bad habits. And then over time, you will see obviously that progress and those bad habits going out the window.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. That way, so you can like monitor at the end of the week, or, every 2 weeks, monitor your trades. Yeah. It's always good to actually see the picture. So that's a good point about journaling. Yeah. For me, yeah, I don't do as much journaling anymore, but I do like to journal just, my thoughts, how I'm feeling, emotions, if I'm having a bad day. Typically, if that comes out on paper, I don't like to trade that day. I feel like emotions was a big deal for me in trading. I spent a lot of time, not obviously everybody does, not being profitable, but I spent a lot of time actually having a good strategy, good, everything was good risk management. But it was like the last piece for me was I just couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't control the revenge trading. And one of the reasons I found out was that I was risking too much money. That's one of the reasons people go into revenge trading, or they try to make it all back. And it's just, it's like a ping pong, right? And then, so for me, emotions was a big one. But then when I did fix that problem, that's the one problem a lot of the new traders, and I'm sure people, you get this all the time, is you're risking too much, and that's firing off your emotions. But when I actually fixed that, one thing I learned, and I just want to share this with everybody, and I maybe get your thoughts on it, was when I fixed everything, the last emotion that I struggled the most was with what you talk about in your podcast, was greed. I figured it out. Everything's working. I'm making money, but then now I'm trying to make too much money when I'm really should not be making that much. Like, you know what I mean? And you talk about this in your podcast. So, had I just controlled greed this year, I probably would have made a lot more money. And that's something you talk about in the podcast. You want to just touch up on that topic there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I struggled with that as well. So I'd see 3%, let's say, on my MT4. And then I thought, well, price is going really well. So if I just hold it for a bit longer, maybe I can get to 5%. And then I'd get to 5% and I'd say, right, well, I'll just hold it for a little bit longer. And before you knew it, prices come back either taking me out of my stop loss, taken out on break even. And then when that happens, you get so frustrated that you made a stupid decision to try and hold this for an unrealistic target. That's when you start to revenge trade. And I thought it was just me at the time. And then speaking to so many traders, obviously, and yourself as well, I realized all new traders do this. So what helped me was to say, first of all I'm going to do is go for 1 to 3s. That's it. I'm not bothered about 4, 5, 6, 7%. 1 to 3 for me is a good trade. And the feeling as well, when you take that 3% off, it's like, great, I've actually pulled some money from the market. And then also as well, you haven't got the stress of thinking, where's the position now? Is price retracing? Is it coming back to my entry? All that sort of that anxiety that you associate, with how to manage your trade. Just thinking to yourself, no matter what happens with this trade at all I've got to worry about is my entry. Is my entry sufficient? Is my stop loss, does it make sense? If so, great. I'm just waiting for 3%. I'm out the market, shut the laptop, and that is it. And that for me massively helped with consistency.
100%. And it's just, unfortunately, there's so much stuff on, Instagram, and people showing, 1 to 100s and all this crazy risk to rewards. It can mess with you. But for me, this year, I stuck to 1 to 3, and that made a big difference for me. I'm not gonna lie, December and August, I had some really bad months. And what I actually did just in December was I started just taking 1 to 2s, just to take. I like take, and it's something you talk. Man, you talk about everything in your podcast. You guys got to listen to his podcast. It's just taking the money off of the table. The amount of times earlier on in this year when I didn't take the money off the table, and then it just went back to zero, or hit break even, was ridiculous. So I'm starting to secure profits very early now. even now I'm starting the year off early, having a little rough December. I take my 1 to 2 and I just take it off the table. I take the money. It just sometimes it doesn't make sense, like trying to go for a 1 to 5, and then once, like you said, the feeling of getting that 1 to 3, you feel good, you got a good trade, you made your money. But imagine if it goes to 1 to 3 and then you didn't take it, and then it hits break even. Now your emotions are all crazy. Now you want to make it back, and now you're going to start looking for trades that aren't really even there. So if, like, for you, for what you teach your students or for yourself, and not looking at Instagram, what is a attainable monthly target that people should aim for, that is safe? You know what I mean?
So with my strategy, I teach a lot of intraday trades, getting in and out of the market 3% and being done. I think for a new trader, so I mean, what I do now, you'll see on Instagram, obviously there are targets that I go for, but they're not always, as you said, these massive risk rewards, they're not always sustainable. And I think
Right.
the most consistent, again, for me, in my opinion, based on what I do, is say 1 to 3 for trade. So I have a target. And I normally say that if I hit 10%, then I'm done, right? That's
Right.
it. So if I can get 10%, I'm really happy with that. These are better returns than, investing in the S&P 500 or anything like that. So it's crazy when you look at seeing what these huge hedge firms are doing, and
Right.
investment firms. If you can just get 10%, then that's crazy. So let's say you got 10% a month. That's 120% a year. If you've got 100,000 FTMO account, or MFF, or whoever it may be with, then that's
Yeah.
life changing. So you've got to be realistic, and I think 10% is realistic.
Yeah, I've actually made a new rule. This is just what I found from trading funded accounts this year. Last year, this year, I really want to focus on my personal account. Was that once I went past 10%, it was just things started crumbling. So, and then there was many times last year, because I had multiple funded accounts, where I went to 12, 13, 14%. So my new rule for funded accounts is I stop at 8%. 8%, that's enough, because I have multiple funded accounts. There's really no reason for you to continue trading after that. Sometimes I can do it in a week. Sometimes it takes me 3-4 weeks, whatever it is. And I think my Forex funds just released stats the other day, really scary stats actually. And one of the stats was that the only successful traders they have stop at 8%, between 4 to 8%. And I think like it was like 95% of people don't make it past the first or second payout or something. And it's because when you're doing the challenge, you're expected to make 10%, right? But when you're really trading the account, you shouldn't be trying to make 10%, risking 1%. I think that's too much risk with all the restrictions that you have. So in terms of prop firms, I just want to get your thoughts on, like, I spent the whole year this year trading prop firm money, getting interviewed by FTMO. It really did change my life. I was able to quit my job. I made a bunch of money. It made me into a better trader, but I also feel now that it's not something that's sustainable long term. It's great to do, learn, take the money, put it into a personal account. But, like, what are your thoughts about these funding programs? Like, long term, do you feel it's sustainable for anybody? I just don't think it is.
No, I don't think it's sustainable either. So I don't think people should be going for prop firms when they first start trading. That's a bad trade that I'm seeing from a lot of traders now. Straight away, they want to just go for that prop firm to get that 100 grand account. And because they haven't got the experience, they are going to fail the first few times. So, but once you have got that consistency, I think prop firms are good at that stage, because what you can do is you can trade their money. If you're successful, like the way that I did it was that I'd build up multiple prop firms, trade that money, withdraw that, put some into my personal account for trading, and use other for investments. And
Right.
you can have, like, as you say, because the rules are so strict, you can have bad months where you blow and lose the account. So
Yes.
I would just suggest, as you say, have a realistic target for these prop firms, but only do them once you're consistent. Otherwise, you're going to spend thousands of pounds on these challenges, which isn't going to help you. And then from there, just use your profits, withdraw them. If you want to put them into a personal account, great, or invest them. But again, I agree with you. It should not be something that you're going to say, I'm going to have, 100 grand account with a prop firm for the next 10, 15 years. But it's just not going to work.
It's not gonna, I mean, you can keep this year I had in the summertime, I had up to $700,000 in funding. August was a really bad month, and I just got hit My first really bad month, and I wiped all of, not ashamed to say it, but I wiped all of them out, and then I got 400,000 again. But it's really stressful, and it's hard to keep, especially if you're risking 1%. But I mean, yeah, if you're consistent, it is a good opportunity. So the other thing I want to touch on, Steve, before we finish up the podcast. So if people want to learn from you, so I'm on the website, I can see steveluke.co.uk. It'll be linked in the description below. How do you go about teaching? Is it like, are they recorded videos? Do you do webinars? What can people expect on there?
Right. So on the website, there's 3 different packages. There is one which are all recorded videos by me, there's over 65 videos going from really beginner in terms of, what's trading view, what's a pip, what's a candlestick, all the way up to intermediate in terms of what I do every single day. And I don't hold anything back on there. So when you see me trade, I show you absolutely everything, because I've found before a lot of courses that I've done in the past, people hold things back and don't show you that little nugget that you need to be successful so they can keep selling you more. So the idea of the online course is that you get everything that you need. And as long as obviously you can apply that and learn it, then I truly believe you'll be consistent from it. Then if you need, if I should say you're hand holding, or if you've watched all the videos and you're still struggling, or let's say you're not as consistent as you want to be, then I do a one-to-one mentorship as well, which is for a month, where we spend time on calls such as like this, going through your trades, seeing, where you've put your stop loss, seeing if it's correct, seeing if your entry area is correct. Have you got your points of interest correct? Just going through everything that people may be going through individually as a trader, and trying to work through those errors to get rid of them, to again help with consistency. And then thirdly, there are monthly breakdowns. Well, not monthly, sorry, weekly breakdowns. And I do between 2 and 3 videos a week, just about, it's not a signal service, but it's what I'm looking for, where I think price action is going to go. And what I'll do, I'll recap all of the trades that I've taken as well, wins and losses, just to help people get an understanding of what I'm doing daily on the charts. Because the reason the website's called Steve Luke is because obviously I'm putting my name out there, and I truly believe that what I'm providing works. So I put my name to it. And yeah, I think the weekly breakdown just helps everybody understand, if you've got something on your charts, a setup, and you see that I've got the same one, then you're applying the education correct. So that they're the 3 packages.
Right. And the main thing, you just said, I actually bought some, it's funny. I bought a course expecting to be taught something by somebody, and then they actually don't teach the strategy they use themselves, which was really weird. But yeah, so the program I have, again, I don't teach the basics. I just have one strategy. That's all I'm showing. So it's really great that, you're actually, so if somebody wants to learn from the online course, they still get your strategy, right? But if they want to get that whole one-on-one with you, then they can. So with the one-on-one, do they also get they all obviously get the video one as well included in it, or is it separate?
No, so that's separate. So the one-on-one, is separate. But
okay.
So if somebody just wants to do the one-on course, then we will go through anyway. I'll look at, if some people come to me and say, I've already got a strategy, which I like.
Right.
However, I'm only winning, maybe 3-4 trades out of 10.
Right.
So
right.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong. So I can jump on there with them and see what they're doing. So if some people buy the course individually, other people just say, I'm okay with what I'm doing, I just need a little bit of help.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I will, guys, leave the link for Steve's information, his podcast, his website. Please check it out. He's got a great program to learn from. Before we wrap this podcast up, Steve, is there any advice that you would give to, a trader that's stuck at break even, not profitable yet, revenge trading? I don't know, just stuck in the, the rut that we were all stuck in before. Like, what is a little bit of advice that you could give to somebody, that's kind of in that situation right now?
Yeah. So I think what we need to look at is, if you are in that situation, please believe that we have all been there. I've been there personally. I'm not too shy to say that I've been there where I just wanted to literally throw a laptop out the window because I could not win, that I was just frustrated, loss after loss after loss. And I truly believe that the markets were against me. Every time I entered, price would go bang, take me out. So all I would say is that if you're in that situation, maybe just concentrate on 1, 2 pairs max and trying to master that pair. Look at, if you're taking a trade and you lose, close your laptop. Don't look at that pair again for the day. Maybe come back tomorrow. It might not be that price, it might not be that you've done anything wrong. It could be price just isn't moving the way that you need it to move for your strategy to work. So
100%.
just take your time, and 1 loss, close your laptop. If you lose, do not take it personally, because you've got to look at your trades as maybe this is 1 out of 10 trades to allow your edge to play out.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Steve. It was wonderful having you. Lots of great gems that you shared with us. All your information will be down in the description below for you guys to check out, and have a wonderful day. Okay.